Welcome to the comic.
What's going on, nerds? This is Mike. This is the Comic Zone, and I got Bill and Ted with me. We're going on an excellent adventure into the future.
And the past.
And all things time travel.
Dun, dun, dun.
So,
Right.
first of all, just before we started recording, you were just talking about getting blackout drunk this weekend.
Yeah, I got way too fucking drunk. I was watching DJ Nike at the Gaslight, and I don't remember leaving.
And two
That's
dudes.
how you know you had fun when you don't remember it.
And you got hit on.
Two dudes tried to give me their phone numbers.
Like separately?
Well, actually,
or
it
at the
wasn't
same
really.
time?
They were separate. All right, so this one dude, it was crazy. I feel bad for him. If we were both sober, we might have gotten along, but he was way too drunk. And he's like, "Oh, I don't know how he got this, but like, you play the guitar." I'm like, "Well, yeah, I do." And then he's like, "Oh, I was in a band. Da, da, da. We should jam or something like this." It's like, "Oh, what do you play?" It's like, "Oh, I sing." And Def Leppard's playing super loud in the background,
So
and
he's,
he's
like,
and he's trying to sing along to it, not doing it very well at all, spitting all over me.
Giving you all the COVID.
Yeah, so it's like,
It's not a good way to hand off your number.
and it's like, you know, if we were both sober and actually like playing music, I think it would have been a different
like that-
situation.
It's like that meme where the dude's got his face pressed into the side of the chick's face. Have you seen that?
Oh, yeah, and they have
Where
all
he's
kinds of
like, yeah,
different
and he's
messages.
like trying to yell over the music.
Or she's doing it to him.
Yeah. There's a new one now.
Or
with
the newer one, yeah.
Yeah,
But that exact same situation.
nice.
And then the other guy, there was three like girlfriends all kind of dancing on the dance floor, you know, doing their own thing. And this one guy comes up out of the bar and like was hitting and trying to dance on every single one of them. And then eventually came over and started, I think, basically trying to flirt with Beth through me.
Yeah?
Yeah.
Weird.
I don't get that, like trying to hop around the bar. That just looks super desperate, bro.
Well, I mean, maybe I don't know. I've never had the misfortune of being single in Casper. But
Yeah,
I
I
wouldn't.
mean that's definitely a thing. Like being single in Casper can suck.
Time travel back to the oil boom. I think it was Life magazine declared Casper one of the best places to pick up a single guy.
Huh.
It's actually in the Fort Casper
Probably
Museum.
still is. It's just, chicks didn't get the memo.
Well, that's because they had all the money, oil money and stuff when it was a good.
Oh,
it was a
yeah.
lot-
Yeah, that makes sense.
I think that's why.
No, it has nothing to do if they're a good person or not.
No.
It's all about, of course,
money,
it's all
yeah.
about money.
Yep. I don't know. I never read the article. I only saw the head, the cover.
Jesus, this bourbon has a bite.
Yeah, it's fucking a stout one.
Yeah, we got Noble Oak, Double Oak Bourbon. Oh, it's a
That's-
45. That's why it's got more bite.
Okay. So to kick off the time travel thing, I want to ask you guys each, or both. Let's say you had a time machine, and this time machine worked like you were a fly on the wall, nothing more. You couldn't affect the
So no butterfly effect.
none of that,
Okay.
and you could go anywhere you wanted.
I already know. I already
But you
knew
have
this.
one trip and one back. So like, what are you gonna go see?
I'm going to go see Jimi Hendrix play.
Really?
Yep.
That's what you're gonna do?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it's got to
That's
be
a
the
little-
right. It's got to be the concert that I've heard, the Band of Gypsies recorded album concert.
Okay.
So, and this probably would end up being totally disappointing.
oh, maybe
You know,
not.
like
It
they
probably
say,
wouldn't
never
be.
meet your idols because they'll always disappoint you.
That's not always true.
No, it's not always, but
I think you'd be happy with it. Honestly, you'd probably enjoy it more than people that were there at the time, because, well, maybe not. Maybe that's a little far.
if I ate the acid too, then maybe I wouldn't remember it either.
Yeah.
Hmm.
What about you?
Ted?
I have, that's a tougher one for me. 1 point. I have 3 that I would be interested in for various reasons. One would be going back and watching the pyramids being built.
That's what I was gonna say.
To see how it really happened.
Because want to know exactly. Dinosaurs, obviously, it'd be cool.
Just go
See how
what they look like.
inaccurate as hell all of our
They're all chickens.
right. Yeah, how inaccurate all of our shit is.
Yeah, they're just everyone. All of them are chickens.
I bet there's some that look like chickens, some that look like lizards, some that
Well,
look
that's
like
what they
fish.
think is they didn't look like in Jurassic Park. That's for sure.
You know, it's our perception of how things used to look.
Well, I'm sure there were some that didn't have feathers, and then there were some that had feathers. And like, dude, dinosaurs existed for like what, 20 million years or something?
Well, it was a lot longer than that.
It was
it was hundreds of millions of years. I think there
Yeah,
were
it's a
several
long-
periods of dinosaurs.
Hold on, I'm gonna
The
look
other
that
thing
up.
to keep in mind is like they were the dominant thing, like dinosaur, air quote, right? Like if you think about it like this, like right now, the dominant species on the planet is humans, right? But if you broaden that out a little bit, like mammals in general are kind of dominant, right? So like how blanket is the term dinosaur? Like not trying to like counter any science of any
No,
kind,
that's
but
true.
like you think
Yeah.
about it, like
You
it's
got a good
entirely
point.
possible that some of them could have been more reptilian, some of them could have been more like bird-like. Like the ones that were in the ocean could have been much more fish-like. Maybe potentially some of them had gills. They weren't air breathers. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of shit that we're guessing at, which is true for both like things that we look at in the past and things we think are potentially going to happen in the future. Like there's a lot of speculation around all of it.
Here's a interesting thing. How long did dinosaurs live is what I looked up, and it brought up like their lifespan,
Yeah.
which could be up to several hundred years. It says
Right. Yeah. I think it greatly depends on the species. Like I think like the big ass ones
big
probably
ones-
lived
a long time. That's
yeah, a
what it
long
says.
time to get there. Whereas a lot of the smaller ones would have been more like dogs,
Several.
you know, like
Yeah, like
5 to 30 years or something like that, depending on the species.
or maybe 100 years or whatever.
Well, yeah, like
That's
I mean,
not what I was looking for.
right. Yeah, like what was the
How
Like
long
the
did
different
they walk
periods.
the Earth?
yeah? How long did dinosaurs walk? among us?
Rome, the planet.
Yeah, you should Google that. How long did dinosaurs walk among us?
165 million years.
Right. Yeah, that was a long ass time.
And they're, like you were saying, they changed drastically over that 165 million years. They, like, species lived and then went extinct, and
Right.
then
And not only
and
that,
new
but,
species were. So which
Like just also living all at the same time, we could be seeing these different varieties that we think might be.
Well,
potentially
let's say you
possible.
could. Okay, maybe we add a feature to the time machine. You can, once you get to the point you want, you can fast forward and watch things on a time lapse and see how, and then like slow it down when you want.
So that'd just be a different time travel
Well,
experience.
You'd kind of need to do
That's
the
more
same
of
thing with the pyramids
But for some,
Yeah,
yeah, you would.
because we don't know.
So you get
we
3
have
trips.
a guess that it took a long time to build them, but it could have been built really fast by technology that we don't know about, or it could have taken way longer than we think with really shitty technology.
Yeah.
It could have been like multiple lifespans of building. To get
One
to that
theory I've
point.
seen is was more of a cement than cutting rocks. That they had a technology that's better to make.
Well, some of
Cement.
those. What's that one place where it looks like each one of the blocks is shaped different, but everything fits together like perfectly. What
Oh yeah, I
place
think
is it?
it's in South America somewhere, isn't it?
There's
And
a few
that
different
that
places
actually
like that,
does
yeah.
look like it was like they were poured into shape. But then, if you were doing that, why would you make them all different shapes,
Why do people like
just to fuck
weird
with people
different-
later.
dude?
Well, no,
Yeah,
like
just
think
be
about
like,
it, like
bam,
purely
icon
cosmetic.
shit.
Like think about like modern home design, man. Like people have like rather than all one size tile with like a similar
True.
pattern, like people do some weird shit too.
Yeah.
Well, and it's also, if you look at art in itself, it's how humanity expresses its view of nature and everything else. So the way these lines worked was to fit their aesthetics and how they viewed the world, or even deities.
You know what I like? I kind of like that we're starting in the past right now,
Yeah.
and then
Yeah,
we
we-
can kind of
Seem
make
logical.
this. We can make this episode like a trip through time almost, and then into possible futures.
Oh, you still got to do your time travel. Where would you go? I know you said pyramids.
Well, like you said, the pyramids are like any of those monolithic sites where,
right. Yeah. Like
Stonehenge, like we were just talking about. I forget
See
the
what
name.
Stonehenge really was used for.
Yeah, Or the pyramids, because they never did find any mummies.
So
or
we need to
anything.
find ways to make like a satellite time lapse camera that can capture these areas
They can go through time.
and so that will last. We launch them up and watch those areas and then pick them up later.
Maybe
to find
that's
out.
why the simulation is the simulation, so you can watch everything on a. Because maybe you can't travel into the past, but you can re-simulate
So
the
speaking
way
of
things happen.
speaking of time travel of the old, there is a H.P. Lovecraft story about the ancient ones. They kind of resemble like the mind flayers of D&D and kind of a little bit what we saw in Stranger Things. But these aliens existed throughout all of time, and they just telepathically connected to everything else. And then they kept great databases of all that information for their own use. They weren't really violent, but they still took over everything. Almost, I guess, a little bit like the Borg, you'd think.
Mm-hmm.
And they all brought it back in. So these were some of the earliest of the time travelers in the beginnings, if you believe H.P. Lovecraft.
Or some of the. That's what's funny. It says the oldest, but maybe those are just the people that traveled back the furthest.
Or they
You
were
know what I mean? But they are actually the people born in the farthest of future.
like the first
And they're
Doctor.
traveling back in time, and it makes them the oldest time travelers, depending on your perception.
Yep.
Like, they would seem ancient because they were around in ancient times, but they're really from the far-flung future.
They've just had the longevity and the place to...
Yeah, I see it.
It's like, how could you really judge the age of a time traveler at some point when they time travel enough? They'd be outside of time.
Well, it depends on how the travel happens. So I think there's interesting ways as far as different pop culture and mythology where someone can travel through time. There's the time machine that can take their physical body to the time. So in that case, it would only be as long as that person was able to live, plus the strain of the time travel, which is often a thing. Just like
Well,
Back
in
to
that
the
movie,
Future.
in the movie The Time Machine, which is a really fucking sick movie. Have you seen it?
Or is it off of the classic sci-fi or?
Well, it is based, but
HG.
they did a new version of it, not recently, but in like the early 2000s, I think.
I don't think I have.
Yeah, I
I'll
don't
find
think
But also the other ways of time travel, kind of going back to
2002.
the like the ancient ones, is not, and this is something I've kind of been toying with it like a story idea in my head for a few years that's never really amounted to anything, but is more through like a telepathically transporting your mind and energy, like astral projection, into somebody else in the past.
That's interesting.
So that's what these ancient ones did. It was all telepathic. So their bodies were still back at the base, at the
So
home.
they were projecting their minds through time
and just like
instead.
tentacles all over time and space. They
So-
connected to everything.
Cliffy and I've
That's
been
kind of what I
reading-
was talking about, I guess. Because then in that form, you can't affect the part of time you're going to, but you're just like a
Observer.
ghost.
But they could intervene and
Okay,
act
they
too.
could.
I mean, I read the story a while ago, and it was a short story. And H.P. Lovecraft has his method. It's like a
There was
science fiction, a science expose research paper that goes always horribly wrong at the end.
Do you remember the Legacy of the Force series? Star Wars.
I don't think I read that one yet.
That's with Darth Caedus and whatnot, and he learns how to flow walk,
I didn't
Which
read
is
that one. I did the one right
basically-
after.
which is basically going into a meditative state and then projecting your astral self through time, and then you can go.
Forward and back, right?
I think just back.
Oh, okay.
I don't know if there's a forward. No, I think he only goes back in time because, they get like visions of the future, and that's why he did everything he did in the first place.
Right.
Is he saw the galaxy being destroyed, and then he, in that same vision, the only thing that stopped it was him being the Sith Lord.
Okay.
So he reasoned it out.
I
in
need
his
to go back and read that. You said it was really good.
Anyway, that's off base. What my point was is the flow walking is similar to what you were talking about,
Yeah.
and that kind of time travel. So you have the time machine physically taking
Your body.
your body through time, and then you can affect events. And then you have the astral projection or the mind projection through time.
I'm not sure if there's really any others that
Oh, yeah,
like the
specific-
crystal ball.
The specific one to call out would be Legion from Marvel. Like he can just flat out just time travel himself.
Yeah, he can time travel at will, and then but I mean, he just
I don't know if so. I mean, like it's time travel, obviously, but I think it ties more back to like he just controls all the things, right?
he can just kind of do whatever
You can
wants.
manipulate
Right, yeah.
space, time, matter to whatever.
That's actually a fucking great. If you haven't read the Legion quest, you should.
I haven't. But I will say that like it's interesting. Like you always like somebody's in conversation, always like, hey, if you could have a superpower, what would it be? And like everybody like jumps to like flight or like mind control or mind reading or
what
like
would you
super
do?
strength. Like I don't know. I'm kind of leaning towards time travel at this point.
If you could travel through time.
But what if there's a consequence to your time travel? You know, just like
Well, yeah, I
the
mean-
butterfly effect so there's almost a couple theories there. One that you change, or then it kind of splits off into a different kind of multiverse. That's been another recent.
Well,
it's
anything
interesting.
you
Like,
do,
you want to be careful for sure.
I
But
think just by transporting your physical body into the past, just doing that and you breathing that air and being there, standing there, creates a new timeline.
They step on the
I don't
butterfly
think-
and everybody comes back.
I
with
don't even
elephant
think it takes like literally touching anything other than just the ground beneath you and just being there.
noses. And the amount of energy it would take and what that would cost on your physical body.
Yep.
So that's
even
actually
if
in one
you
of the-
even if you just stood there, like you were there, like you transported back, just stood there, looked around for a minute, some people saw you, and then you disappeared, just that would make a new timeline. I don't think there's anything.
Everything causes a reaction.
That's why they say that time travel into the past is like technically impossible without the alternate timeline, like creating new timelines, because you run into paradox and shit.
Well,
And like things that can't happen, like you can't
Go back and
go
kill
back in
yourself.
time and kill yourself, right? You can't go kill your younger self because that.
Well, that. But I mean, that's
a
the thing.
paradox.
Or yeah.
So
Yeah,
the
it's a
paradox is.
but it only
What
is
did
a
I say?
paradox.
No, I'm just defining.
Yeah,
giving it a
yeah,
name.
Yeah, so
par-
but the thing is like it's only a paradox if it doesn't branch another timeline.
That's what I'm saying.
So
Like, so if it branches another timeline, then then you could go back and kill yourself, and in that other timeline, you just don't exist.
what if it's not a timeline and you are joining back into the same time, space, 5-6 dimensional place that you are?
Okay,
Then everything
here's a
explodes when you kill yourself.
Or
There was
not even that, but if it's just a smaller, like it is more like the butterfly effect. You return and things are different. Would it?
Right, but
Would
what
you?
happens if you kill yourself?
Hold on.
That's the whole thing. Is
Yeah.
like if you kill yourself, then you weren't alive to go back in time to kill yourself.
right.
That's
If you
the whole
kill your
paradox.
younger self, how did you go back in time to kill yourself as your older self?
Right.
It
So,
can't
like,
happen. So that's what I was gonna say. Is like there's this thought experiment where it goes something like you have a gun in front of you on a table, or in your hand, and in front of you is a portal where you can see back in time, and in that portal you see yourself loading the gun, but in your hand is the fully loaded gun, and then you shoot yourself before you actually finish loading it through the portal. You kill your past self before you can load the gun with the gun that's not been loaded yet. But in your time, it's loaded, but you kill yourself before you can finish loading it.
You get stuck
it's
in a
the
time
exact-
loop.
Like, so
It's the exact same paradox as killing yourself, though.
no, I know. It's just it breaks it down and like makes it.
version of it.
No, it just makes it more.
I think you, the self, the user, would be stuck in its own paradoxical looping bubble of infinity,
Well,
shooting itself, reloading, shooting itself.
Well, that's why like
Well, then the rest of the universe would pick off like a scab and throw you off, and it would continue on its own.
or yeah, the
I think
universe.
I think
I like
the,
that stance.
Where the universe just wipes you out because you don't belong there.
Like, look, bitch, what are you trying to pull?
Yeah.
Like, yeah,
Just
you're
makes you not
a
exist.
scab you pull off, throw away.
Could be.
That's the mythology I'm building.
Or
I like it.
That's the story. Yeah, I'm sticking to it. I just made it up
Get
right
writing,
now.
bro. I'll read it.
Yeah. Started off just as a audio thing for a little bit too.
Yeah, you got some recordings.
Mhm.
Nice.
I haven't listened to them,
I'd be interested to listen.
but how to travel through time and not go insane. The running title.
That would be.
have you seen
And you start off by don't fucking do it. That's how it starts
well,
off.
hold on. Have you seen Interstellar?
Such a good movie.
And
Sounds who's in it?
so we missed a form of time travel. And in that it's
Yeah, that's the black hole thing.
Matthew
right?
McConaughey, and in the end of it, he gets pulled into a black hole, or flies into it. I
think he flies into it.
Well, he has to fall into it because he uses his engines to launch the other ship. Anyway, he goes into the black hole. It takes him basically into a higher dimension where he can perceive time, like all moments in time, as like different panels on a wall.
Yeah, like picture a Rolodex.
Well, no, it was like different. Like he would fly down these hallways, and each window would be a moment in time that he could observe and manipulate gravity too.
Yeah.
So
There was
gravity.
also that like Rolodex type thing where he's like flipping through.
So he was
a whole bunch.
manipulating time and space, though.
Right, yeah.
And he could observe time. I mean, it was basically that dimension, like his mind breaking that dimension down into something he could understand, so he didn't go insane.
Yeah.
But even eventually, you would, if you were
yeah.
stuck in a place like that where you can only observe time through these
Well, that's the thing though.
these
is, like,
windows, and then he was pulling strings to manipulate gravity in space. So that's the only way he could interact with the physical world, was through manipulating gravity and knocking things over. And
yeah, that's right. I remember that. Like, if you haven't seen it, you should definitely check it out.
Yeah,
It's
it is.
really good.
it's
check that one
pretty.
out.
That's a pretty mind-bending movie, and that movie's based on a lot of like theoretical science that way smarter people than us have come up with. So it's like,
So with the butterfly effect, how does, like going back to like Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure, what happens to Socrates and Neapolitan?
Neapolitan? You want some ice cream, bro?
Yeah, ice cream.
Napoleon.
When Napoleon go back to their own home time, their own original time,
I don't remember the movie.
No.
Well, no. So like, I
just
think
bring up-
it's the same thing. Like if you snatch somebody from the past and bring them to the current without you going to the past, like if you could just blink and grab some historical figure,
That's not
going
gonna
to
do anything. I don't
and then send them back.
Oh, that would fuck some shit.
That's
up.
going to fuck some shit
Yeah.
up. Just them seeing something, like you just like they appear in front of you, you show them a cell phone and then send them back right there. That's going to blow their fucking
Well,
mind.
just walk them around for a week and
Not even that, just like seeing anything that we have.
and then send them back, and then people would just think they're crazy.
Right, like
You'd
picture
probably, like,
picture being
go
from
into
like
shock.
1,000 years ago, for example,
Or they
and
would-
just suddenly appearing right here in the studio and seeing like the painted walls, the guitars, us talking like a bunch of assholes into a microphone. It's gonna blow their mind, and then you blink them back to the past.
Yeah,
Like,
depending on where you took them from, it would, they would probably,
they would assume fever dream.
well, or the people would just think they're fucking crazy, or they would write a really dope story about the future that everybody thought was a big joke, but it's really about
What if every great story we've ever read is a story about the future and we just don't believe it?
different
The
futures,
Simpsons.
Yeah,
like
there you go.
different futures.
Yeah, they predict a lot of shit.
A lot of
They
that
have-
stuff is not entirely true, though. That like a lot of that is people manipulating things, and some of those are like newer episodes that came out after things happened. Like I admit that there's some of it, but I think people blow that out of proportion.
I just think
That's
they've
all right.
done so many different things,
It's entertaining, whatever.
but or is it the Mandela effect in reverse?
No, I think it's the
The Mandela,
or
I
is
think
that-
it's
is
the,
that-
The
I think it's
Mandela
the
effect-
spray and pray effect. Like they're just shooting so much shit out there, they're bound to be accurate with some of it.
well, the Mandela effect is more about like, yeah, you're talking about alternate realities, but I don't think maybe every alternate reality is based or built off of, splitting points, or you know what I mean?
Yeah, like that's an interesting.
So
thing. Like,
when you merge realities and something different was happening, so
That is the evidence of the time travelers.
I think that's what happened to us.
wife.
That's a fucking great movie.
I haven't seen it. I heard it was good.
It is
Is
so
that the
fucking
Keanu
good.
Reeves one? Is that no?
No,
That's
I
the
can't remember.
the light.
Eric Bana's in it, I
Lake
think.
House? No,
What was the time traveling one with Nicolas Cage? Yeah, time traveling hitman. I think.
I don't know.
Maybe I'm misremembering. That's also
No,
possible.
Bruce Willis. There's a.
Oh yeah, that's what it was. Bruce Willis, not Nicolas Cage.
That's a dope movie too. What is that movie called? We were just talking about it not too long ago.
12 Monkeys.
No, that's a cool movie too, but it's not that.
Oh, that's
That's a fucking crazy movie.
and the miniseries after was pretty dope too. Kind of ran on and on and on, but
What the fuck was I?
Fifth Element, no.
No, it's where he's the hitman,
He goes back to kill
and
it.
then Looper.
Looper.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to watch it. Like I saw the trailers for it back in the day, and I wanted to see it. I don't know why I never did.
It's a good one.
Yeah, it looked cool.
So there's this Slaughterhouse-Five novel by Kurt Vonnegut. And in this book, the aliens see time not how we see it in a linear fashion, but they see a person's life as if they were looking at the Rocky Mountain Range, from start to finish, every point in between, all at once.
Which is kind of what I was talking about in
So-
Interstellar.
So when somebody dies, they just say, so it goes. Because it's not a loss. It's more, and they've seen
They've already knew
they've
that was
seen
going
the
to happen.
whole thing from start to finish by when they first look up, see you. Versus we see it from a start point A to a point B.
So that kind of brings up an interesting thing. Like, there's debate that like time is just another dimension, essentially.
That's what
The fourth
the
dimension.
Interstellar thing. The
Right. Yeah. So like we see things in like we perceive 3 dimensions, right? Forward, back, up, down, side to side, right? 3-dimensional. Whereas like the 4th dimension might be time. It might be something completely different, but let's hypothetically say it's time. Like if you were like a true 4th dimension being, like those aliens you're talking about, where you can perceive it and interact with it and manipulate it.
You would be able to perceive our 3-dimensional space. Like, you know what I mean? You would, like, just like he was saying, like a mountain range, like you would see time. You would see more than just the physical. You would see.
And if we take a step
Time.
back, even looking at what time truly is, and this goes more towards the philosophical.
Before you
Buddhist.
hold that thought, this is attached to what you were saying, is like the aliens in. Have you seen the movie Arrival?
Yes.
A long time ago.
And that is basically those squid aliens that in that movie.
Yeah.
They perceive this time the same way. Like they can see the entirety of their life, and then in learning their language, that chick in it, I forget her name. She
Is it Jodie Foster? No.
it's
That's Contact. Oh, one, sorry.
But she can perceive time the same way, and like sees her daughter born and die young, and still goes through with it.
Yeah.
It's a pretty heavy movie. Like we should
Wait, what was it called?
Arrival.
Which one had like the weird like oval ship just floating out there?
Then
That
it was
sent-
Arrival.
Okay. What was
And then
Contact?
the aliens were those squid beings, and they would
There's,
they
there's
could
Jodie Foster is a scientist and finds aliens and kind of and you never see the aliens, and people were pissed off about it because it was like herself. She saw herself. She didn't see her aliens or something like that.
Interesting. I don't remember.
So there's no time travel at all. Squirrel.
Well, I mean, like when you think about it, though, like what he was talking about with like how they view time, like it still all ties together pretty well. So.
Yeah.
no,
those ones,
that
absolutely.
movie is definitely, it's like not time travel, but you can just see time.
That would
They
be.
don't- They live in the present, but they can see time
Okay, like as a great
like
like
all the time. So
That's
they're it's in their mind, but they're not like in a meditative state or walking through time, but they're just seeing it in their minds all the time.
as a great joke segue on that topic. Like if you woke up tomorrow and discover that you could manipulate time and view it like that, like how much time would you waste in that first little while just fucking with time and going forward and like jumping off of something and just to rewind yourself right before you hit or something stupid like that? Like how much time would you spend doing stupid shit before you're like, you know what? I need to go see something cool.
I don't know. It's hard to say. Like
Probably just how I discover the power to do it. Maybe it's like
yeah, maybe
sneeze and it's like and
Well,
and then you're like, what the heck?
Yeah, generally, when you have a power like that, it ends up popping up in inconvenient times and shit, and you don't know what the fuck's going on at first.
Right, you wake
I
up
think
and you
it's
think you're
something
in
you would-
Groundhog Day.
I think it's something you would stumble around on and probably lose your mind maybe because you didn't know what was happening.
Mm-hmm.
You might not even realize you're traveling through time at first.
Yeah, just think everybody's fucking with
You
you
just
for
be like
a couple of weeks
you
straight.
think you were losing your
Like,
mind.
all right, look, assholes, I'm done. Like, just you need to stop.
But if you could master it and freely travel anywhere,
Yeah.
and that you got to wonder if that limits you to just on Earth. Then could you travel? If you can manipulate time, you should be able to manipulate space too.
Yeah,
And
in
you
theory.
should be able to go anywhere in time, anywhere you want. So you should be able to freely travel around the universe.
I think you'd have to
At will.
understand all of space and universe to go there.
But I think if
before.
you could perceive time, like, so let's say you can do all these things at once, like you can perceive time that way, travel through time physically too. I mean, you would be at a fucking mental level that'd be super nuts. We're
Yeah.
talking like a super AI or something that could do that.
Right. So I got a quick question.
Some kind of crazy fucking badass quantum computer that, you would have to send a robot that could think insanely fast and understand like you said, understand the universe and not just go somewhere random and hope for the best.
Or like when Nightcrawler first discovers his powers, he can only go where he sees.
He can go elsewhere, but it's not a good idea
Yeah.
because then he could end up in a wall or,
Right.
But
So the question for you, I already know your answer because we've discussed this. Do you believe in the idea of random? Like, do you believe random is real?
it's no, because if there's a
I
multiverse.
know your answer, motherfucker. I asked Bill.
Sorry.
Hold on. Let's let Bill
I
answer.
mean, I'd like to think there's some things that are random, but like a throw of a die or, a shuffle of cards.
So how would you define random then?
Well, I mean, if you get into programming, nothing is random because it's all a program that's
Right. So let's look at take apart the universe as a whole. Like if at any given point in time, like if you knew absolutely everything about the universe at one moment in time, does that change your perspective on random?
I think
probably.
so. I think so.
Because
like,
if
well, I
you-
mean, I do believe in like smart creation and God is through science and all of that.
Right. But so let's
So
take
from that point of view, no, there is no random.
Right. So like if you knew absolutely everything about the universe, like the idea of like artistic creation, right? Being semi-random. Like if you knew everything about the universe, you would understand like the chemical interactions in people's brains. You would know what their current states are and the potential change for those chemicals and everything about it, right? Which would completely nullify the idea of random.
Not only that, but like if you think about the infinite nature of the universe and then that making everything that could possibly happen has happened or will happen or has happened multiple times. So there is no random if everything possible has happened.
Well, not only
And
that,
will
but like
happen.
if you know everything about the universe, like absolutely everything, like our brains can't comprehend it. I get that. But like if you were capable of understanding everything at a given moment, you would know everything from the beginning of time to the end. Because you would know from that single slice of reality and what direction everything was going, you would know what got it there as well as where it was going at some point.
And why?
Yep. And like you'd be able to like extrapolate in both directions indefinitely.
And then you
And
try
so
to
we're
manipulate the
actually-
outcome. And then would you see the results immediately too?
We're talking about somebody like Kang right now.
Yeah. Kang level or
Like in Loki, what he was doing in Loki
mhm.
is what we're talking about.
Yeah, it's a crazy thought though. Like the idea that
because he had perceived every possible, like, from the beginning to the end of time, right? So he was just trying to preserve that.
right. So here's another minor thought experiment that I don't think we've discussed.
We see that whiskey.
Do you think that the idea of free will actually exists in that light?
Well, if there's
Again, I want to. I want to
I'd
believe.
like to, but like you think about it, if nothing is random, that means everything is predetermined.
Well, as soon as you can see through time, I think you have to get rid of the idea of free will, but not,
Right, so
not
how about
necessarily
this?
because
How
that's
about this?
where choices come in, and then creating alternate timelines.
Right, yeah, like the multiverse type stuff. But
So I
like,
think-
let's assume that time travel is impossible.
I can disprove it right now.
Okay, let's hear it.
Okay, so going back to this Buddhist idea, there is no past, there is no future. There's only now.
Okay.
As far as how we perceive time, and that's kind of like
Yeah, maybe that is it.
so.
too.
So I
Maybe-
mean, so that time is only a construct of science to keep the gears going.
yeah, maybe the past is gone and the future hasn't happened yet, and it's as simple as that, and you can't go back or forward ever.
And I think this is a big cause of depression in our generation with social media, because so take this podcast for example, and I've said this once before, and
Damn it, Ted.
right now as Ted kind
Clanking
of bumped
shit
the
off.
microphone, that happened right now. But actually, as I say, it happened right now. It already
It
happened
already
in,
had
that,
it.
in the
It did-
past.
It doesn't exist anymore.
Now, so this is a recording. So we are recording this in this moment. As soon as this recording is done, it is in the past. We will upload this in the future in a couple days, and
then visit.
and then
the
it will
past.
become. And then as somebody listens to it, it becomes now.
So that's like a form
And then
of
and then they're
time
done
travel.
listening to it. It's in the past until somebody picks it up and listens to it again.
Yeah, the recording is like a
It's as,
form of time travel,
it's as close as we can get.
like into the past. Like we can actually listen to ourselves have this conversation, listen to Ted clink that glass off the thing like an asshole.
Yeah, man.
No, there are no accidents. There aren't.
Yeah, that's right.
There's
That
no
was on
random.
So I can
Do
call
you see
Ted-
how well that directed his conversation?
on this recording. I will be calling Ted an asshole for eternity in that moment.
Okay, that's fine.
It's
no,
true
I'm
because
saying
you just
no,
did.
it's true though.
Yeah.
You just did.
Like if you think about that, like if this is being projected off into space, the signal, or you know what I mean, through the internet or going through whatever the fuck.
Until it's
Super weak
gone.
wireless signal across the galaxy.
Yeah, and then I'm just this thing is preserved.
Yeah, it just echoes across space like asshole.
possibly forever. And then some aliens listen to this podcast
And they're like, "What's an asshole?"
in the future, and they're like, "What the fuck?"
And then probing begins.
Exactly.
Oh, look what you did, Mike.
Yep. You started probing, you piece of shit.
Oh Jesus! And the aliens from the future went back into the past and started.
So if you've ever read Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy or seen some of
It's
the
one of
movies,
Ted's
I've seen the movie and I watched I've read the first book, read air quotes, I audiobook, bro.
yeah, no judgment.
We all do here, buddy. No worries.
It's one that
Yeah,
I've
so,
always
like, I
loved.
only
but
did the first one though, so
I've always loved to reading it, but I've never been able to finish it.
yeah, like I had seen the movies and I absolutely love it. It's one of my favorite movies ever, but I had a really hard time paying attention to the audiobook. I'm not gonna lie. I don't know what it is. It's just so
The book has like all these footnotes, so it's like it tells a
Breaks
story.
up the story too much.
Like Zaphoid Beetlebrox is president of the universe. And it says president of the universe asterisk. You go to the bottom, it says the president of the universe has no real responsibilities or power whatsoever. He's only there to cause a distraction so everyone who does have power to rule the universe can do it in the privy of their own silence. And
right, yeah. Right.
so it has all this kind of choppiness.
So like
there.
Mr. Satan. Like he pretends to.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Rule
I was thinking
things.
more like our real world, but yeah.
Yeah, it's like what Mr. Satan does.
Yeah.
He pretends to be the man, so Goku and everybody else can live
mean-
freely, and they're the real gods.
To be fair, like pretty much every like pinnacle figurehead of government everywhere in the world is similar, unless you're like a communist government and you have like a dictator at the head. Then they're calling the shots, but like our president, they're not actually calling the shots. Like
Yeah,
No.
the ruling class in like England, they're not calling the shots. It's people behind the scenes. I mean,
Yeah.
And that's like one of the things when people say like movies or something predicted the future. I think they've accurately captured the present moment, but that still reflects into the future.
that's because we're dumb and don't change it.
Idiocracy, perfect example.
Oh yeah, I love that movie.
You know, it,
So good.
it is, and it's awful at the same time. It's
Well,
hard.
it's awful because that's where we're headed.
It's where we were and where we are, and you know, I think that's that's the satire bit of it.
Yeah,
And,
like, it's
or
eternally accurate because we're constantly getting better and spiraling it downward at the same time. So, like,
You
they
know,
make
it's.
fun of
I
the
think it's
Gatorade
an ebb
farms
and.
and
I think
shit,
that's
but-
just an ebb and flow in humanity. Is like
yeah, it's reasonable.
we're not always gonna get it right, and sometimes that's gonna make things suck for a little bit.
Well, yeah, like look across our.
But if
our
you look at
history.
humanity like throughout time, we are getting better at this. I mean, as long as we can not kill each other in the next couple hundred years, we should be all right. But I have my doubts.
well, it's the
I think the downfall of humanity will be humanity. Like, no
Well,
doubt, we're
dude,
going to create
what-
something that's going to wipe us out.
we already. What if we already have
I
with
get
social media?
That always sucks for me that everybody thinks that. Like nobody has any fucking faith in humanity. It sucks.
Well,
Because I do. I tend to fucking try to think
Well, I'd love
that
to
we're
think
gonna figure it out and we're not gonna fucking kill each other. And also, we aren't special. You got to think about time in the sense that humanity has been reset multiple times, and
Yeah,
that's
I subscribe to that theory.
and there's speaking of the pyramids, like possible and other shit. It's like they had technology equivalent to ours that wasn't based on electricity and computers, but
Well,
they were
at the-
just as smart and advanced as we were or are. And all that knowledge got wiped out to the point that we don't even know how they did that.
Right. Well, it's also possible that they had a lot of similar technologies. Like you and I have had this talk several times where like think about like your house, for example, Bill. Like it's all wood and sheetrock.
It'll
right?
be gone before the
Like,
pyramids are.
Right. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's the thing.
When
It's
our
like,
society
we've
has
gotten
gone
to
to
a
the
point
point
of like our society has gotten to a point of like convenience and fast building, right? Like we don't build shit to last, we build shit to sell. Right? So how many times has humanity gotten to that point and we just don't know it because the shitty building materials vanish before the next cycle?
Yeah.
So like we see some of the leftovers like the pyramids or like potentially the pyramids or like those giant stone blocks in Greece or in Rome where they have like the huge temples built on them, like the Temple of Apollo, I think maybe. And they have these huge stone blocks underneath their pillars. But the Greeks or Romans or whatever didn't place those. They built on top of existing. So like they're they're basically building on the bones of a prior civilization. So like the big question is like how many times has that happened?
a lot, I think.
Like it's really hard to tell. Like
I think humanity in general, humans are way older than we think.
yeah,
Like
I
we've
think
been
it's
around a lot longer than we think. And then so that would explain the missing link too. Like speaking of what I would go to see if I could look at things in time lapses, like the evolution of people at the time when they say we had that big boost in mental capacity.
Yeah, see, because I don't know that I necessarily agree that it was just like an overnight like
It wasn't. It was like over thousands of years, but it's still like fast in the grand scheme of like evolution.
right, which is what I kind of have a problem with because that's like we're just declaring ourselves an exception.
I think we're just like cutting ourselves off and I don't know. Like I'm not a fucking scientist obviously, so maybe I don't know some shit,
Yeah, that's
but
reasonable.
which is entirely possible, but
That's why we need a time machine.
Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. Yeah, then the layman, that's what I'm saying. If you had a time machine you were selling, you'd definitely want to make it so people can't affect things in the past. Like if you were trying to, like the new time machine, the Apple,
You can only go to
check
the
it out.
Jimi Hendrix concert, but you can either go as this guy here or this girl here, and you
Yeah.
experience their experience of the
Quantum
concert.
Leap. We were just
The Quantum Leap.
We were just watching.
But Quantum Leap had the ability to control the person, and they were there to save them.
Yeah.
or
Or affect events, like fix events.
yeah, fix. They are the TVA.
Let's
Kind of, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
like a side note, just like put a pin in it for later discussion. Like we should discuss the ethics of some stuff like Minority Report as well.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Have you ever seen that, Bill?
That's kind
Yeah,
of, that's precognition,
Right, like
which
the
is
idea
a form
being able
of
to,
looking through time.
Right, like-
Pre-crime.
like yeah, seeing the future and then like punishing people for things that they haven't committed just because you've seen the future.
Yeah.
But also, like, check this out. Like, at the very beginning of the movie, they show a good example of why it's kind of good, though.
Well, yeah, like I know
Because when
that
they,
has
okay,
merit.
well, in the beginning, the guy leaves for work. His wife's like, oh, bye. And he forgets his glasses or whatever. Comes back home. He turns back around, comes home, and catches his wife fucking some other dude. And, like, in their precog shit, he stabs them both to death with these scissors and, you know, murder. But they kick in the door just as he's about to... He grabs he's about to stab him, and they kick in and save the day. Now,
Right, but so
how is that a
ethical is
bad?
it-
How is that a bad thing, though?
Right, but here's the thing: is it more ethical to arrest that guy for what he could have
Or
done,
get him some help?
or no, like change the course to change the event?
It happens too fast. Like they get the
No, like they could have showed up before that and handed him his glasses, so he never came home.
crimes of passion, though, they pop up like within the hour of the event happening. So they have
Right,
to
but
get
how
it,
long was he
and then-
gone? Like,
Not long, like 20, 30 minutes, I would imagine. Long enough for her, like her,
well, yeah,
for
but
them
like
to start getting.
That's where the ethical thing comes in. Is it like technically the dude hasn't done it yet? Like, yes, he's going
just
to.
about to. Like he was
Right, like I
plunging
get
his
that.
hand
I
down.
get that, but like, isn't it more ethical to divert it?
You can't though. You don't have enough time.
What if you?
Right,
What if
but
you?
if they
What if
grab
you
him
know
before
that?
he actually commits the
They
murder,
did.
that was enough time.
They did?
Right, but that doesn't mean he needs to go to prison for it because he hasn't actually done it.
I guess
what-
that
And
would depend.
especially in
I
the
guess,
case of a crime of passion, like
yeah, in a
some
cri-
time
in
to
the-
fucking calm down and be like, yeah, that would have been real dumb of me.
Or what if
exactly,
you already know this minority report exists? It's a normal night. You know it's part of the status quo now,
Yeah, that's
and just the
true.
presence of that officer saying, "Would that stop you? No. Hold on. You want to think that?"
Like, hey, bro.
They
and,
just
and,
show
and,
up.
and you just go like, "All right."
Oh, they knock on your door. They're like, "You're gonna kill somebody this week."
They don't knock on the door, but you can see them outside, and they're just like, "Hey, what's up?
Right, yeah,
Make
just
good
like,
choices."
like we talked about
Making
with like,
choices.
You know, I don't know. It's like the fairy godmother of them. You know?
no, that makes a lot of sense because like Cluffy and I have talked about like
Make good choices.
the quantum physics stuff where like just observing something changes the outcome.
It
right?
does.
Right. So like the same, God damn it, same thing with the Minority Report stuff. Like them just knowing that type of stuff exists and somebody showing up and being like, "Hey, man, we're not going to tell you what happens, but you should probably
You're
not
gonna have to make a choice here real soon, and you better make the right one, bud.
Yeah.
But what
exactly.
if the same dude's on a coffee break and then somebody goes, "Uh-oh." It's like, no, it's not you. It's not you. And then they do something horrific.
Well, I don't know. But that's the thing is like,
Could go
There's
either way.
plenty of examples of people trying to affect events, especially past events, and then one way or another they happen anyway.
yeah,
Like it's just
Final
the
Destination style.
like the time is a river type thing. You can divert it a little bit, but it's still gonna flow
So-
the direction it's supposed to, and that's where it takes out the free will thing, like you were talking about.
Right. Yeah. Like I don't know that I don't believe in free will because I like to pretend I make my own choices, but then I remember I'm married.
Yeah.
But no, seriously, like I
Valerie's-
don't know like where that all falls in. Like the free will thing, like as I described random, like free will requires some measure of random, right? And if random doesn't exist, then free will doesn't exist. And that complicates the shit out of all the things.
That's why I say
And I
that.
really truly believe that random isn't a thing. Like
I think that's
on
just
an
a
intellectual level, like random can't exist.
well, it can, but it also we're talking about like the vastness of infinity.
Right,
So then
let's
does
go a step
if
further
somebody
and
gets
say that
struck by
random-
lightning, or a rock skips off the road and hits somebody right in the head, the wrong spot.
Right, but
Is that
that's
a
the thing,
act
is
of
like,
God? Is that
I don't
or is
think-
that still random?
I don't know about
no, it's
God,
like
but like
random is a matter of perspective.
I don't know about God, but I do know that, like I keep saying, like everything that could happen, has happened, will happen, is happening right now somewhere else or in an overlapping, like, so. Yes, it seems random to us, like being in what perceiving one reality. But if you think of the all reality, when you talk about infinity, you're not just talking about really, really far away. You're talking about every single thing that could possibly happen,
That's why
will happen, has happened.
physicists believe that the multiverse is possible because the universe is that big,
Yeah,
that infinite, that there are the possibilities of having the doppelganger.
it
or-
has to be. It has to be if you talk
Right,
about
so, like,
infinity. Because
Everything is essentially happening all the time, all at once, everywhere.
yep,
It was like kind of that idea, just in like a different, like either a different dimension, a different multiverse, like
yeah.
really.
Oh yeah,
It's a big mind fuck.
and that's where I was getting into that one episode when it, talking about like the simulation theory, and it not only is it possible this is a simulation, but also it's possible the multiverse is really just comprised of simulations.
right, and that
it's
we're actually a
actually
simulation
to-
within a simulation.
Or obvious, yeah. It's actually more possible to create, like easier to create a simulation on that level that looks like reality in theory than it is to create a universe.
Yeah.
So
I don't know. You
In
haven't
the
seen
infinite-
you
in the
haven't seen
infinite-
some of the funk that's growing at the work refrigerator. So they've got their own kind of universes growing in
Yeah.
there just by itself.
that's what I'm saying.
They
like-
don't even have to touch
you know
it.
what's fucked about that though, Bill, is that we're actually in the mold that's in that refrigerator, just on a different perspective.
yeah.
Yep.
Yep.
Just under one of the.
And you got to think about that
Inception, my
too.
friend.
Is like think about like the perception of time at different levels of like size. So a molecule is perceiving time way different than we are, or a fly is perceiving their day-long life, and it's probably seems way longer than that to them.
Right. Yeah, I think so. There's
But
a couple
they're
of,
moving at a way higher speed. So also we didn't talk about time travel in the sense of, which is the only way we really know that you could actually do it, is move really, really fast.
We
Right,
don't
and
know
that's-
that.
that's
And then-
essentially
no,
skipping
we do.
forward.
It's only
No, we do know that.
Well, I
When you-
guess it's the perception of like the space travel. Okay, I guess
No,
with,
they-
like
No, we do know that.
astronauts
That's
that are
actually-
traveling through
that's
space.
They've proven it
When
within
you-
our atmosphere.
Yeah.
Actually,
Not only that, but you fucking, when you move close to the speed of light, you start gaining mass for whatever reason, and then you're warping space and time, and you're actually living in a different state of time than like the people on Earth. So you'll be younger when you get back. So say you zipped off at light speed and came back, you would actually be younger than the people that are still on Earth because they're still experiencing time different. That's
Right,
what they
like-
mean by time and space are relative based on the conditions you're under.
There's Einstein.
Basically under the effects of gravity is what E equals MC squared is the effects of gravity on time and space.
right, and like a great call out for that released recently is that Lightyear movie, the Buzz Lightyear movie.
Well, and
Like,
planet.
that's a good example. Like as he approaches, like hyperspeed or wherever their target was, like each time he comes back, like he might have been gone like what felt like a couple of hours. Like they portray it much faster, but like when he gets back, like he's missing like half a decade or a decade each time that he
Yep.
comes back.
And once again, in Interstellar, he's on that planet in between two black holes. They go down there for what's a couple hours to them because they're closer to the black hole than the dude that stays up on the ship. He ends up waiting for them for like 24 years when they're only gone, in their perception, a couple of hours. But because those effects of gravity on the planet are so strong, it makes them experience time differently.
Yeah, which
And that's like not like a science fiction thing. These are actually like thought experiments and shit that's been worked out in theoretical physics and shit.
yeah. So like the idea of time being different, like it's not just like as you approach light speed either. It's a sliding scale the whole way. Like I think they did I don't remember when, and I couldn't quote anything specific, but I remember reading about an experiment where they did like they started like some atomic style watches, like super accurate watches, and left one stationary and flew the other one around the planet for a ways.
Just in orbit.
And, like right, no, within the atmosphere, just like in a plane. Like they flew it around, and there was a difference in the watches when they came back together.
Yep.
And it was like time dilation is different based on how fast you're moving. So like it's super obvious, like close to light speed, where you're moving stupid fast. But time dilation happens regardless of how fast you're moving. So like if I'm running next to, like if I run past Cluffy while he's walking, I'm experiencing time slightly different than he is. Like not a lot.
Not enough for us to perceive.
So what about
Maybe that's why people
there's
that
a
run
book,
stay younger.
Blink, and I actually was listening to an audiobook, but he's talking about like high speed chases or like when athletes are in the zone, that time feels like it slows down for them.
Yeah.
But in the police chase, it works the opposite. Their adrenaline makes them.
You mean runner's high? Is that what you're talking about?
No, I'm talking about the perception of time. I'm not calling it a high. I'm calling it when they're in the zone, things just slow down for them so they can make better choices, better
Right.
shots.
Like think of like when you're like in the zone playing like a video game where like everything is just like you feel like you have all the time in the world to make a decision. You know what I mean? I know you've been there.
Well, I wonder how much of that is just like your mind being freer because you're relying on muscle memory at some time.
Right. But like you're still
Don't be a
doing the
buzzkill
decision.
about it. This
Well,
is
yeah,
time
but,
travel. I think this is a true example of time travel.
I think that's reasonable. Like maybe we're like
Just as time is a perception, that we don't the speed of what if it's more about the speed of our heart and our speed of our own life.
right. Yeah. So
That's what I was talking about with the perception of
like
the
the
fly.
size thing. Yeah.
The fly.
But I don't think we even have to leave our own atmosphere. Or, I mean, I think there's ways that even our own mind controlling,
That's the
even like
size thing.
meditation or things like that. And I mean,
Yeah. Kicking up the shaky cam, Bill.
yeah, well, I'm on a different zone, so nobody saw it.
This looked like Blair Witch to you?
Lost footage Comic Zone episode.
Earthquake.
Jesus Christ.
Found footage.
But yeah, so like I've thought about it a few times. Like what if like your perception of time is tied directly to your metabolism? Like not just your metabolism,
we've
but
been
like your
talking
heart
about
rate and like as your heart rate goes up, your brain thinks faster.
That's
Stuff
what
like
I was
that. But,
thinking.
like,
That's what I was saying.
yeah, I know with like the fly, and we've
Like the
discussed
fly
this
is
before.
seeing us in super slow motion.
Right, we're like
We're just like,
"Ooh." Yeah, exactly.
Well, that's how we see it in cinema all the time. If somebody's running really fast, it's slow-mo. Why is it always...
well,
There's a few exceptions.
it just makes it like they seem
that's-
they're moving.
I think it's just-
the best version of that was like in the X-Men movies. Actually, is where he was still moving fast, but everyone was in slow motion, almost not moving at all.
You're talking about like Quicksilver?
Yeah,
Yeah, like that. Those ones were way better than the.
like
modern
he's still
Quicksilver.
zipping around in while everything's like basically paused.
Yeah. And,
So that makes it even better. I get what you're saying. They should.
but like the Flash or like the Flash TV show, or a lot of the time, it's just slow motion and
or everything's a blur past them.
usually both.
Yeah.
They comment some
but, like,
hybrid of that.
If you think about it, like for like Quicksilver or the Flash to operate at that kind of speed, like I think it's a much more accurate portrayal of what they're seeing when you look at it from like the Quicksilver in the X-Men like First Class type thing, right? Like I think that was a much more accurate representation of what a true speedster would see and how they would think, as they're just thinking and moving so much faster than everything else that's normal to them. And maybe like when he's interacting with his mom, like downstairs in his basement, like playing video games and shit, like maybe they're capable of like stepping it back and functioning in normal reality and then stepping it up when they're going fast. I don't know. But I think that to be able to control themselves when they're going that fast, they would really have to be able to think that fast too.
Think about if you were
Or it end really badly.
Do you remember in Invincible, that speedster, that Russian speedster, and like he was like chilling with his chick. They were having like a picnic, and he got some, and he's like moving at such a, and she's just like having a normal conversation with him, and it's excruciating for him, he says, to even just sit there and have a conversation with a normal person because it's so like insanely slow to him. Like like while she's in the middle of her story, he runs off, goes and beats up a bunch of bad guys, comes back, and she didn't even know he was gone until she noticed he's wearing a piece of his shit, like his suit. But he's like, to me, when I'm talking to a normal person, it's fucking insane. Like, it makes me insane. He's like, like, you guys are so slow, it makes me, it's like talking to sloths or whatever.
Right. So, like, it kind of makes you wonder, like, how Quicksilver and the Flash, like, are they, like, able to, like, basically change the clock speed of their brain, like, when they go faster versus when they're hanging out? Or, like, because to be able to move like they're moving, like, the Flash in particular, like, vibrating his atoms so fast, like, he can go through a wall, and, like,
not only that,
running
but
fast enough running fast enough to go through time. Like, your brain has to be functioning at such a ridiculously fast level, but without going insane when you're interacting with normal people. Like, you'd have to slow that shit down. Otherwise, like, a normal conversation would take like 30 years.
It would seem like an eternity. That's what that guy's saying. He's like,
yeah. And
just having a 5-minute
conversation, by the way.
By having a 5-minute conversation, you feel like you're spending 30
like
years,
50 years. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Like, it's crazy. So, like, they've got to be able to manipulate that. But anyway, like,
I think that's just,
or just like a running, if you're a marathon runner, you still stop and sleep. You still need to turn off. So maybe, yeah.
Yeah, but like, there's a big difference between like operating at a speed so fast that people can't actually see you move and a sprinter.
Maybe
what I'm saying, like, being able to, like, if I were able to, like, casually from my own perspective, stand up, walk upstairs, get water, like, obviously the water wouldn't work right, but like, go upstairs and come back, and you guys not notice, like, if I did it mid-sentence, like, think about the amount of speed that is. For me to, like, right there, I could have just, during that quick pause, gone upstairs and back, and you guys not
nearly
know that I was gone. Right, like, the amount
wouldn't it actually create a sonic boom, too? At a certain point?
Well, yeah, let's not tear shit apart too far.
Just
yeah, like, I get it.
I think it would, yeah.
Like, the idea of that, like, how much faster your brain would have to function, like, compared to, like, where you're
just so you didn't run through the fucking wall.
Exactly. Yeah. Either that or, like, end up on another fucking planet, like,
or in China, or yeah,
right, exactly. Like,
if you're moving that fast, you'd go right over the ocean. Like, you could run,
like. But from your perspective, like, if you're the speedster, like, that's a casual walk upstairs.
Yeah, and you're not even exerting yourself.
What happens if you piss in super speed? Does it just pool up as a ball in front of you?
Probably.
Just splash it, just vaporizes.
No, it's just like a ball in front of you, and then, like, when you step your brain back into reality, it's just a bloop.
Taking a piss would be, like, take forever then.
Right?
Because, like, I mean, your piss isn't going to be super fast. It's going to come out
it's just going to operate by the rules of physics.
It's going to come out just like any normal piss. So you're like, fuck, I got to piss. This is going to take forever.
Yeah. That would be the struggle. Like, if you couldn't, manipulate the speed of your brain along with that, that'd be terrible.
That's kind of the interesting...
I don't want super speed anymore. Thanks.
I think you would just end up killing yourself. You couldn't.
Yeah, totally. Yeah.
That's
why there's no accident or off themselves by the time they're 2.
That's why there's not even time travels either.
Well, that's the interesting thing about what we're talking about is we've gone from, like, physically traveling through time and witnessing events to, like, affecting events. Now we're talking about just, like, the more nuanced, more real things about time just in general.
Yeah.
There's so much to, like, talk about when it comes to this topic, dude. You could go a million different ways. And I think
what I think is interesting about, like, where we currently are, like, talking about, like, the real effects of, like, time and, like, your metabolism and size and all that is, like, how heavily influenced we are by movies and TV shows.
Yep.
I think
Like think back to even like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids. You remember that shit when you were a kid?
yeah.
Like it was still portrayed as like the little people were normal time, and the big people that hadn't been shrunk were like
Slow motion.
right?
Yeah. So maybe that's what time is just a levels of perception.
Oh yeah, definitely.
It's like how you perceive your situation and probably what planet you're on, that kind of thing, what size you are. So I think
it ties
maybe
back heavily to
time
like the speed of your brain is what it comes down to.
that has everything to do with your metabolism.
Yep. Which is why
And
like
just like the state you live in. Just like they said, time is and
I mean, like Wyoming.
no, like
not that state, Bill. God.
It's kind of slow here, though.
Yeah. Dad joke Billy over here.
anyway.
Well, it is.
Horrible.
You got a slap sound?
No,
Just like slap yourself.
no. I think might have crickets.
Yeah, do that.
What we got over here?
Thank you.
I don't hear crickets.
Really?
Am I hearing that bad?
Yeah, apparently. How do you not hear that?
Unless, I don't know. It's
Are
over
his
now.
headphones not up?
No, I can hear you assholes talking. I can't hear the crickets.
All right, well, you need to get your ears checked, Grandpa.
Whatever.
Maybe it's
Speaking
not
of the
sending
future,
there.
Ted's going to be having some headphones here in the near future.
A microphone?
Or no,
Hearing aid.
hearing aids.
Yeah, I probably need them. Yeah.
Well,
Probably
if
do.
you couldn't
The
hear
wife's been
that,
trying
then
to
you
get-
definitely do.
Yeah, the wife's been trying to convince me to get hearing aids for a while.
It's a lower frequency of crickets that
I
you can't hear.
go a little bit more gray. I'll get some hearing aids, but I'm waiting for the gray.
You're already pretty gray.
Eat a whole bag of gummy dicks.
So,
What about some of your favorite time travel
I was
movies or
just gonna say
stories?
we should talk about some.
So let's just jump right back into the fiction. And
Let me think. Well, let's start with the classic.
Butterfly
Fucking
effect?
no. Back to the Future.
Back to the Future.
Okay, yeah, that's reasonable.
You know, that had some great things in this, like the photograph of the the sisters kind of melting or disappearing,
Yeah.
as far as how he was affecting and changing time by being back there. It really established a lot of time travel themes in pop culture, period.
Mm-hmm.
And
I didn't appreciate Back to the Future at all when I was younger. And then I watched it maybe 5 or 6 years ago and really got like all in a row. And I was like, oh, wow, this shit is really fucking great. Like, it's just as good as everybody like gives it credit for. I thought, they would be your typical older movies where, they did the sequel and the third movie and they weren't necessarily that like connected. I didn't realize how it's basically one movie. If you attach those 3 movies together, they basically make one movie.
I mean, I saw
It's
them
that
kind
kind-
of when they came out in the theaters.
It's that kind of trilogy where it could be one movie or one series, and it all has everything to do with each other. Does
But
that make?
I agree, but I think the first movie could stand alone as itself.
Oh yeah, sure, it totally could.
I don't think
Like,
the other
they didn't have
the
to
other
keep
two
going,
couldn't
but-
stand by themselves without the first one.
Well, no, because it's all like you have to have the beginning and then the end. That's why I say it feels like it could be one movie because you can't have any of them without the other, except for the first one. Like you could totally release the first one and it would have been a cool movie and leave it there. But I think all 3 movies are equally good.
It's been a really long time since I watched any of them, if I'm being honest. Probably
neither.
like 10 plus years.
Another, one of my favorite series, and it has everything to do with time travel and the, perception of time, and a lot to do with what we were talking about, going through time, traveling through space at near light speed or at light speed, and it affecting time. And that's Planet of the Apes, the original set of movies.
God damn you!
Yeah. The first two movies are some of my favorite movies ever.
They're definite classic sci-fi.
And it has to do
great
with
movies.
that mind bendy. It's almost like a fucking Twilight Zone-y episode-esque where, it really is like a Twilight Zone episode, especially the first movie.
For sure.
Or the first two movies.
What was in the second one again? I know I've seen them all. It's been a long
one's
time.
called Beneath the Planet of the Apes, and at the end, they go down into the subway, and those people are worshiping that doomsday bomb. And by being around and worshiping this bomb for however long, the radiation from it is like mutating them, and then it gives them psychic powers, and it's pretty
What
dope.
the fuck? I don't remember that at all. Maybe I didn't see it.
No, this is like from the 70s, my dude.
I saw the Planet of the Apes, the first one. I remember that one, but I don't remember that at all. So maybe I haven't seen this.
I remember the worshiping the bombs, but yeah, they got kind of out there pretty quickly.
Well,
yeah, I don't remember.
I
that at
think those two movies, and especially the second one, is actually my favorite of the series, which there's 5. It just gradually steps
4 or
down.
5, yeah.
It gradually steps down in budget, and by the end of the,
Yeah.
it's so bad by the end. But the first two movies, and you could say the third one's really good too. That's when they like go to the 70s. Because at the end of the second movie, they just blow up the Earth with the bomb, and that's it. Like, that's it. It's such a fucking cool story, dude. Like, those first two movies,
all right,
you need to watch
You
them.
gotta watch
Go
this.
through.
If you have not-
remember a lot of the first one, but I don't
And
remember that other
I am
one
begging
at all.
anybody who's listening now, if you've not seen the original 2 Planet of the Apes movies, watch them. Watch them. They're, if you can get past the cheesiness of the special effects and whatnot, and just like appreciate the story for what it is fucking incredible.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to watch those. I don't recall them at all.
And it's not like your typical. I think why I like it is it's not your typical happy ending. Like, it's not. Neither movie ends in a happy way,
It's a tragedy.
and I super like it. I love that. Even the book, the original book. You should read the original book. It's really good too.
Yeah, I'll have to check it out.
But it's a completely different fucking story than any of the movies.
Yeah, that's believable. They do that a lot. Well, how about you, Bill? What's your favorite time travel related media of some kind? Movie, book, comic?
Oh, so many. The original Time Machine, just that short story novel.
That's what
That
that
was-
movie I was showing you earlier was based off of.
It was kind of a difficult read, but I don't know if that's my favorite. It's just so classic.
Dated.
But it was it H.G. Wells? Was it?
Yeah.
Um,
How about Terminator?
Terminator was a good one too.
That's time travel.
Well, I'd have to say that mine, well, you're thinking over there, my favorite is like the first thing that I remember reading about time travel was like back in junior high, and we read a short story called The Butterfly Effect, if I recall correctly.
Well, there's a movie
It's like
too,
where
you
they
know,
were-
Ashton Kutcher.
Right. Well,
think they're
this one is
different.
like they're talking about like recreational time travel,
Yeah.
and like they go back and do like dinosaur hunting, right? So like you sign up for
You have to
it.
stay on the
like,
path. Stay on the path.
Right, stay on the path. And dude steps off the path and steps on a butterfly, which is why they call it the butterfly effect. And it changes the course of history like slightly. Like when he goes in, they're talking about like this election of the next like president of the United States, right? And like everybody's like, oh yeah, there's this dictator running that's never gonna fly. And like he steps on a butterfly because he went off the path. And when he comes back, that's exactly what's happening is people are voting for the dictator. Like it just shifts the alphabet slightly. Like I think it shifted some naming, and it shifted to where people were voting for a dictator in the future. Like it's a really fucking cool short story. Like, and I think that was probably one of my earliest like exposures to the idea of time travel, because it was probably junior high.
Or the
So-
effects of time travel.
Right. Yeah. Like the first time that my brain was like, oh, cool, look at time travel. Like the first time I could actually like parse it a little bit and think about it. And I'm pretty sure we read it in junior high.
And that's what that whole idea of that movie, the Ashton Kutcher movie, is based on.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
I
Yeah.
haven't seen that movie in so long, but I remember that was pretty good.
Didn't he like kill himself in the womb in the end?
I think so.
Mm-hmm.
There's multiple endings to the movie, so that's one of them, yeah.
Yep. Goes back in time and offs himself.
So one of the first exposures to kind of time travel, and I'm not sure it was actually I'm not sure if it was A Wrinkle in Time. Then also I think
Donnie Darko.
no
Isn't that a time travel movie too?
maybe I don't know, but probably Quantum Leap, the original series. I don't know if it would stand up now, but I think as far as
I don't know. I think it stands.
We
up
just
fine.
watched the
Like,
intro.
Just thinking back,
You
like,
should play the intro music real quick. Play a little of the intro music. It's so fucking funny.
So 80s. But I mean, I just loved it. It was a good family friendly story. It had, it was hero, no anti-hero or villain stuff, but it was, and it was something just kind of watched with
that
my
might
mom.
be one of those shows that was a little deeper than you remember too.
It probably is.
get it clever. Jesus.
Wait for the turnaround.
Good God.
It's this like so
I
many
loved that show
themes,
when I was a kid.
I used to watch it with my mom a bunch. Shout out to my mom.
and they're coming back with a relaunch of it too. It looks pretty cool.
Oh, well, while we're talking about the 80s, you guys remember MacGyver?
Oh
Yeah, dude.
Fucking loved it.
Hell yeah. That was a good show.
Knight Rider. Like, what happened to TV?
That was my favorite.
So disappointing.
Oh,
Well,
fuck
there's-
that. There's shows now are good.
Yeah, there's like 5.
But you don't get the variety of like crazy,
Weird shit.
I mean, Quantum Leap at the time that it was made had to have been just like mind blowing to people. You know what I mean?
It was after Star Trek. Sci-fi kind of had its base, so it was something that could be sci-fi-esque. But what it allowed the writers to do is take these characters and put them in any historical place and time.
Which
And
makes writing.
I
way
remember
easier.
one in particular was Sam kind of beams into this body, and he's just sitting at like a counter at a restaurant and doesn't know what to do, and he just sits down, and everyone starts looking at him weird. Then he looks at his reflection, and he's a black woman. So he has that famous scene where the couple sits down in that racist white-only restaurant and asks for a meal.
Oh, and he just did it by mistake.
And he just kind of did it and just kind of triggered all these things right from that thing. But I think that it was based off of real historical events and kind of put back in there to kind of tell that story. And that scene is, as far as that show, was just kind of branded. But it was allowed them to take the writers anywhere else, to the Old West or to whatever. He's a race car driver.
Do anything you want. It's actually really genius as far as like giving yourself options.
Yeah.
For future shit.
Well, yeah, like infinite possibilities.
It literally.
Yeah.
You could do anything you want.
And he's still lost in time.
What a fun episode! What a fun show to write for! I bet.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I bet that was cool.
The writing room.
When did that stop?
The writing room had to have been a blast writing that fucking show.
When things were good.
Yeah.
Probably.
When did that show end? Do you remember?
I don't know. We should find out.
We should find out how
Google
long it went.
Google machine? Tell me.
Google. But
Dude,
it's another
considering
one.
we didn't know where we were necessarily going with this episode, I think it's going really good.
So another really good time travel one that I like, and I'm not sure if it's true time travel, but it was that Slaughterhouse-Five, the novel, just because the way he jumped, same kind of ideas. He was able to use the time travel and also that alien perspective to jump around to different times within his life. So like he really, because the story, if you underline, is really about PTSD and like being shell shock. So it's about a soldier returning from war and all of these memories and trying to figure out how they put together. And he's a person that's lost in time. So, I mean, I think that story, like kind of my college level time travel was, I think, probably the best kind of stories of its time travel story. Not true time travel, but definitely on the
It's mind tripping.
Yeah.
What was that that Tom Cruise movie where he kept starting over that same
That's
day?
a fucking great movie. It's called oh shit.
Tomorrow?
Oh, fuck, you're
Tomorrow
almost
Man or
there.
something like that.
No, it was Edge of Tomorrow.
Yeah, okay. That one was pretty good
It's a
too. I
fucking
liked
cool
it.
movie. It's so funny, too.
Quantum Leap had 5 seasons
That's more like
That's it?
from 89 to 93.
Oh, that was barely a 90s show.
That's The Edge of Tomorrow is less about like time travel and more about like the Groundhog Day effect,
Yep.
Yeah.
where you live the same day over and over and over
The
again.
time loop.
Okay,
Yeah.
and then we could talk about that too. Is like the time loop, like how, like not all like imagine like just being able to travel through time driving you insane, but imagine living the same day over and over again.
I don't know. It feels like it sometimes.
And you talked about being risky. As far as like, oh, would you jump off a cliff and, just rewind time? What
Or-
if you knew every time you died?
Russian Doll. Did you guys watch Russian Doll on Netflix? I didn't see the second season,
No.
but it was the same kind of idea. One of the same chicks that was on Orange is the New Black, and like every day she died. It was her birthday, and she kept reliving the same things and was trying to figure out how to kind of
Break the cycle.
break the cycle. And then she ended up finding somebody else that was doing the same, is having the same kind of trip. And then they were trying to work together, and it was a really trippy,
That's the
really
same-
good story.
That's the same kind of thing with the
But-
Edge of Tomorrow.
Mhm.
Is he runs into the chick, and she she was stuck in the time loop before, and broke the cycle, and then so he keeps going to her, and he has to keep explaining who he is to her, and
Mhm.
blah 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 blah. That's a fucking great movie though, and it is funny as fuck.
Yeah.
Yeah, I liked it. I thought it was pretty good. There was another time travel one, fairly new, where like these people from the future show up like in the middle of like a football game or a soccer game or something, and they're like, "Oh, in so many years we're gonna get invaded by aliens," and they've run out of people in the future to fight the aliens, so they started going back into the past to bring forward
To
people
recruit people.
Yeah, I don't remember what the hell it was called. I want to say Chris Pratt was in it though.
Have you seen
Mm.
Future Man?
Mm-mm.
No.
That's a fucking hilarious show.
I
It's
haven't
about
seen
time
that.
travel. What are you talking about though?
I'm trying to remember. Let me look it up real quick.
So there's
You
one
guys distract the audience. while I Google.
comic book that I've been reading that's about time travel, time after time. It's been a pretty good series. Like I showed it to you once upon a time. No. But it has a time machine, and one of the interesting things, one of the main characters, it was a mob boss, and he forced him to go through time in a really old ratchety machine that basically kind of gave him a cancer and is now killing him. So now he's traveling to the future, keep traveling to the future to try to find a cure. And his time machine can only jump so far, and each trip makes his cancer worse and worse. So he's in this constant gauntlet of trying to jump further to find a cure
What's that?
before he dies.
There's something similar to that.
That Bruce Willis movie. I just had that. Remember, we couldn't remember the name of it. I almost had it.
Looper.
Is that? That's what we said before.
But either that or 12 Monkeys. Those are two time travel
Oh.
Bruce Willis movies.
Yeah, all right. Yeah, I think it was Looper. I just suck.
I was just thinking of something I fucking
the
lost.
Chris Pratt one I was talking about is the Tomorrow War, by the way.
Oh.
It's also with the
Yep. Yeah, that's it.
What is it?
All
Let
right.
me
Yeah.
see.
You win.
guy from.
I just watched that movie a couple months ago. It's super good.
Touche, gentlemen. You win.
Was he the kid from Third Rock from the Sun?
Yeah, and he was
Joseph.
also Robin in the Dark Knight
Oh.
Returns or whatever the fuck. Or no, the third Dark Knight trilogy movie. He was that cop that his name was Robin, but he wasn't Robin. That fucking God, so stupid. Anyway, where are we at on time here, home sleazy?
About that time.
Really? That was a
We're
quick
about an
one,
hour,
dude.
hour and 20 here.
Yeah, that went pretty fast.
So,
So if you have the time, make sure to review and review our podcast on Spotify.
Yeah, I mean, if you haven't figured out time travel, just watch them anyway.
I was gonna say something to wrap this up, though. I can't remember. Give me a second.
Go back in time.
So-
I remember.
One thing.
Okay. No. There's one thing we haven't talked about as far as like time travel, but this is like time travel in slow motion. What about immortality? And we've been reading Berserker, And
Yeah.
that's a good.
Final issue's coming out soon.
So
Coming
like
out this
think
week.
about like we talk about traveling through time like it would be an instantaneous thing, but what if it took lifetimes? Like you lived for like in Berserker for 85,000 years.
Yeah.
Like what?
Wait,
What
but
does
he have the ability to go backwards in time?
No,
No.
he just
Or Thor.
he or Thor.
Thor's got some good examples of that. Like one of the times he meets up with the Avengers, he's like, "Oh, I'm so happy to see you guys." It's like, "Why are you always so happy?" It's because in my lifetime, I blink, I take a nap, and all my friends, everyone I've known is dead and gone.
Yeah.
Because I live so long, I have no perception of time like this. So when I see you guys again, I'm generally so excited to see you.
Because you're still here.
But then the
Right, but
movies give
that's-
us dumb Thor.
That goes back to what we were talking about before, though. That's not time travel. That's just perception of
No,
time.
Perception of
but it
time.
is a time travel, just in slow motion, like I said.
Well, yeah, but
It's like you're not
but
doing it
You still
instantly.
need that. It still needs to be relative to something for it to be considered time travel.
So I think when we're talking about time travel, it's being able to jump that normal perception
That's
to
still
something else.
that's still the ability to exist in multiple eras of time. Like so, essentially, you are traveling through time. It's just
well, technically, you're
in
traveling
a
through time.
fucking normal or what's to us normal time frame.
Right. Yeah, but like I don't know if I would call that time travel though, just because like first of all they don't have control over it. They're just moving forward at the same rate.
They're just living life. Are we time traveling
so
right
like
now?
the-
Just
like
in this.
longevity, I wouldn't
I'd say,
consider
yeah, we
time
are.
travel.
I'd say yeah, we are. If time is a real thing and it's malleable and it's like yeah, if the only thing if it's not true that the only thing that exists is the current moment, then we are traveling through time, but we are doing it at a
Standard rate for
an-
our perception.
an earthly pace or our perception of
Rate point 1.
exactly.
1.0.
Right. Yeah. So that goes back to what I talked about earlier, where like time is kind of it's the relativity thing. Time is a perception.
But you would perceive time in a different way if you were immortal and lived for hundreds of thousands of years, or you know
Yeah.
what I mean, 80,000 years.
Right.
You would perceive time differently than people, even though you're doing it at the same rate. You would still perceive it different than somebody who has a mortal lifespan of less than like 80 years, maybe.
Right. Yeah. Like I get what you're saying. I just like to me, like kind of like what Bill was saying. Like if you're not manipulating it, it's not time travel. It's time flow.
Fair enough.
So, like you might experience the flow of time differently. Like if you were an immortal or somebody that lived thousands of years, but you're still not doing time travel because you're not the one manually manipulating it and jumping forward or jumping back. Like
But what is
for me, to be time travel, you need that kind of like leap point.
so? What would the like a Thor or somebody that's an immortal view of somebody like Kang who is manipulating time?
and
So
living
the
in
immortal,
every-
the immortal perspective on a time traveler.
I think it'd probably be the same as what we have. Like,
Are they cheating
Right.
God? Are they another Prometheus stealing fire from the?
I think like you look at somebody like Thor and yeah, we call them gods because they are at a level above us, but really they're just
really strong and live long.
Yeah, more resilient beings. They're not really gods. I mean, that's a matter of perception too.
Yeah, I
It's
mean,
like a
the
higher
Norse
dimensional,
gods, but
a
then
higher dimensional being would make Thor look like nothing, and he would just based on the fact that he lives in a higher state of being all the time. He's living at a high. He is based in a higher dimension, so he would obviously be more powerful, have abilities that we can't even. That would fuck with our minds. Like you would perceive the 3-dimensional space as a whole. Like we said, you would perceive time as a whole. And like, so I think that God thing is just a matter of levels as we talk about so much.
Yeah.
And recently,
It's reasonable.
as we wrap this up though, recently we just did an episode of Dragon These Balls all about the Cell games. And then before that, some time travel stuff with Trunks.
Yep.
And him, that whole saga of Dragon Ball Z has everything to do with time travel.
Yeah, and like the Dragon Ball approach is definitely like the branching timeline thing for
It
sure.
is. So like it's basically when you travel back in time and affect things, it just creates something new.
Right, yeah. A
It
new time
doesn't-
ring.
and doesn't like. So if you go back and kill this bad person in the past, it doesn't kill the one that you in the future that you left.
Right. Yep.
They're still there.
Yep.
New branch.
So, thanks for coming on, Ted.
Sure. Thanks for
I mean,
putting
you're
up with my shit
basically-
again.
Yeah. Next week on Dragging These Balls, what are we? We're doing, after the cell games, all that jazz.
Afterlife tournament.
Yep. What are we doing? We're doing last run.
So we're gonna take another couple week off or so with the
Okay, yeah,
regular
we're
Comic
with the main
Zone.
show.
It's
So
my anniversary.
Congrats.
16 years of marriage.
nice.
Congrats.
Jesus,
Thank you.
man,
Yeah.
that's crazy. Congrats.
Thanks.
Got 4 years on me, buddy.
Visit the Comic Zone wherever you get your podcasts. So we got links all over the comiczone.com. We're on Twitter, we're on Instagram, we're on TikTok and the Facebooks, and YouTube too.
And we're written on the walls of some bathroom stalls too.
Yeah,
Yeah, I saw that.
call it with
Yeah.
Ted's phone number if
That
you
was
want a BJ.
real. Whoa.
This has been the Comic Zone. Yeah, that's it.
We're out of time.
That's it.
Peace.